Hello everyone, you're listening to Northern Flights, a Park Pro podcast keeping you up to date with the people, tournaments, and culture of disc golf in Canada and beyond. Consider becoming a Patreon today at patreon.com/parkpro. Find us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by DiscGolfPark. And now your hosts, Andre, Jesse, and Matt.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 44. That's 44. Double digits. What's that word for? 11, 22, 33, 44. Is there a word for that? If there's not, there's not.
Know your eyes in the morning sun. I feel you touch me in the morning rain. Is it a palindrome?
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know that there's a word for it aside from being a multiple of 11.
Well, there's got to be something special about episode 44. It's a good number.
It's a special day because the three of us are all in the same place again. And by all in the same place, I mean in completely different places. But we were all in the same place this past weekend, so it's kind of like that.
Yeah, it's actually fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool.
We all played in a local event somewhat locally to Jesse and myself. Matt made the trek down to play in the Rusty series, the Rusty Scholar. So it was pretty awesome to have you around. And one of the things that we got to do was we got to have a pretty awesome interview with Chantel Budinsky. So that's gonna be coming up here pretty quick. We also have some Canadian Disc Golf Tour schedule updates, registration updates. We can talk about Jonesboro a little bit. We got Music City Open. But before all that, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple and Spotify, make sure you send us a review. We also have a Discord channel where we talk about a lot of different things, and it's a pretty awesome place to talk about just disc golf in general, and from anything from rules to behind the scenes, what it takes to become a tournament director, and even just like course conditions and stuff. So it's a great space to chat about disc golf with a bunch of other people that love disc golf. So it's almost like,
and if you want to play Diablo 2 with Jesse,
that's the place to do it.
That's the place to do it.
We haven't had a Park Pro game night yet, but I think I'll maybe try and schedule a formal one sometime so the people can hang.
100%.
Yeah, we gotta do it.
Yeah.
Do you think everyone's got Diablo 2 installed? Or do we have to play Fortnite?
Yeah, that's the disc golfer game, I guess, Fortnite. But
yeah.
I don't care. I'd play checkers if I got to hang out with more disc golfers. Yeah, it's fun. Totally. Join Discord.
Hey, what's the racially sensitive version of Chinese checkers these days? What do they call that?
Good question.
Have they come up with a better name?
I don't think
because there's nothing Chinese about it, is there?
No. I think it was when I was a young man, and I'm older than both of you, kickball was called Chinese baseball. Basically, anything that seemed like a backwards version of something North American, they just put Chinese in front of it. So that was Chinese baseball. If you were parked at a red light and everybody got out of their seats and ran around the car and either got back in the same seat or got back in different seats, do you know what that was called?
Yeah, Chinese fire drill.
Chinese fire drill, yeah. And then I guess a bunch of people went to China and were like, they don't do any of these things. It turns out a Chinese fire drill is about as organized as any other fire drill around the rest of the world.
What?
So since I have my own computer in front of me now, I can be a Wikipedia wizard. And Chinese checkers was invented in Germany in 1892 and is called Sternhalma. And it's only called Chinese checkers in the U.S., Canada, and United Kingdom.
Huh.
Oh, I love it. So there's got to be some online version of Sturmhalskern. We could do that on games night to get back to the point. Yeah. East Asian checkers.
Yeah.
International checkers.
The checkers that expand that spans borders, or
Checkers without borders.
checkers without borders. That's right.
Okay. How about Among Us? Are the kids still playing Among Us, or is it considered sus?
Or is there like a button for the next topic?
Yeah. We could
if you guys have any ideas on what we should do for games night, let us know.
let us know in the Discord. Join the Discord for sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Get in there.
it's funny because when we started the Discord, someone had made the comment that we don't have nearly enough channels, so maybe we'll have to make a games night channel in there, and we can. That's where we can talk about and play all these games, and we can talk about the origin and the real origin of all these games as well. So.
Yeah. But anyway, enough talking about games. Let's talk about Chinese Frisbee, guys. Disc golf.
Oh, he couldn't.
Close to Yukon, we are going to talk about registration, and Yukon general registration is open. So that's the larger than life tournament up in the Yukon. It's open. General reg is open. Nationals, Canadian Nationals has open reg. And that has already gone to waitlist, and it's pretty long waitlist already. And then we have the Crush in Calgary. That's an awesome women's only event in Calgary that is also open now for registration. And beyond just the Crush, there are many Canadian women events that are now open for registration. So if you are a lady, or if you know a ladies that might want to get into the sport and try their first tournament, that is such a welcoming environment, and it's such a good place to play disc golf. And I don't have enough good things to say about all these ladies events that are going on. So find one near you if you are eligible, and definitely worth signing up, because you make friends and have a great time. So
the most positive of vibes.
Totally. It's awesome. Speaking of positive vibes, Rescue Ratings. That's the series that we put on here in the Kootenays that started last week. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Limber Disc Golf for supporting the event and all of the events once again. And specifically to Steve, who Steve Redick did such a good job doing the majority of the TD work down there on the ground, finding sponsors and stuff like that for the local, as far as locally goes, and coming in big with a lot of Prodigy discs, Prodigy prizing, and save on and whatnot. So it was a really awesome event, and the weather was fantastic. We all played. Casey Hanemayer, this is the second biggest news to come out of there. Casey,
who invited this guy?
1085 round. He shot a 1060 average on the event. So there's the 2 rounds in one day, and yeah, just lighten the course up. It is his home course though, so I guess that's to be somewhat expected, right?
And he's pretty good. He is, I think we can announce now, your 2023 Canadian Disc Golf Tour champion.
Totally.
It's not a spoiler anymore. We've got the final round of Gold Eagle up, which, by the way, if you just are for some reason listening to this podcast, but you have not watched the Gold Eagle coverage, holy man, you got to watch that Gold Eagle coverage this weekend. There was, it only got crazier as the rounds went on. And that third round, I think, had more highlights and slow-mo replays than just about any other round we did all summer.
Yeah, and
Hilariously enough, I'm part of the podcast and haven't watched it yet. I've only got the first 2 holes of the first round in.
Okay. Well, those were good, but it gets even better.
So maybe you can semi-spoil it for me. The course looks open, but it looks like it's beautiful out there. The rolling hills, like the nice cut fairways, everything looks like that was in like tip-top shape.
It was 100%. You think of Saskatchewan and you think, oh, it's a flat prairie. How are they going to build cool golf courses in a flat prairie? But at Jackfish Lake in the Battlefords, northwest Saskatchewan, they have a lake and they got a bunch of hillsides around it. And they carved a beautiful course. It's extremely well designed, well thought out, up and down hills, 32, we said floors. I assume that's the same as stories of elevation change.
Yeah, I guess so.
With like throwing way up hills, way downhill, and across huge gully like valleys, and inside and outside trees, and yeah, just the craziest course. And then the second course was a temporary beachside course, and it's like this beachside resort at Jackfish Lake, and so you're playing along the beach at Jackfish Lake, so you're like throwing alongside a huge lake in the summer.
We talking like greens on sand level of on the beach?
Yeah, like circle's edge of the green is the water.
It's
Tells you I'm
pretty fantastic.
not prioritizing my time. I need to go watch that.
It's
Yeah.
It's funny. I was just like, I was watching it back, and my wife was like, "Oh, where'd you guys film this one?" I was like, "This is Saskatchewan." She's like, "Wow, really?" Like, it's just like one of those things. It's not your typical Saskatchewan landscape, and she's like, "Oh, we should go there. Like, we should visit there." And I was like, "Yeah, we should." So, huge shout out to that event. It was such a well-run event, and it was mentioned in the intro, legendary players party. We didn't really capture the essence of that because we wanted to get back and edit, but they have
also, it was nighttime and it was dark.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But like fireworks, and it's just like there's so much going on there. It's such a great event, and I hope we get to go back there again. So
the campground where a lot of people camped is right at Tournament Central, and also like it's in the beachside course for the second round. So it's like you're playing around the campground. So it's just disc golfers everywhere. And then the permanent course, the Jackfish Lake tournament or championship course, is just up the road from there. So everything is super close. You could bike. It's a bit of a walk to get to the main course, but it's like an extremely short drive, or you could bike there or something like that. Yeah. And it's just like a summer vacation in a tournament.
And if you're not the camping type, they do have like a hotel/inn right there as well.
Yeah, built on the ball golf course.
So I'm going to read this comment that we already had from round one. It's from Mark Ash. He says, "Thank you for this incredible event. I just love the flyovers and the views of your amazing, beautiful country. I'm in Florida in the USA, and when I think of Canada, I think of it as pretty much the same as Antarctica. It's crazy to see it in the summer, making me wish I could go spend more time there." So that's kind of like, that's a comment that basically illustrates exactly what we're trying to do is really elevate Canadian disc golf and showcase these courses and players. So thanks for that comment, Mark. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you for watching. I know we've commented on a few of our coverage, a bit of our coverage in the past as well. So thank you.
Just don't come in the winter, because it is a lot more like Antarctica.
Yeah.
That's like a copy paste send to Saskatchewan tourism comment right there.
Yeah, totally.
Amazing.
Matt, you kind of buried the lead here, because we were talking about Rusty, and there was one other big news story that came out of the Rusty Rating series last week.
That's right. I beat Jesse in the first round.
Hey, guess who else did?
How amazing is...
Guess who else did?
What?
Both you guys bullied me.
I don't know if anybody else...
Around.
My soundboard doesn't work because I got a new update, but...
Thank goodness. Now I'm just going to scroll down and look at what the
Andre
overall
Lauder
scores were.
with the big first victory in a PDGA sanctioned event.
Yeah, MA2 champ.
MA2 champ. Did you get your t-shirt done yet?
Not yet. I was actually thinking I would get some tape and put it on my tie-dye one that I wear around the house, but
just a masking tape.
Yeah, exactly. It was awesome. It felt good. First win. I've come close once in the past, and so to get the W was great.
You didn't just get the W. You came down. I think you were leading after the first round because you beat Jesse Tomalti's score.
Jesse Tomalti. So
yeah, and then you were tied going into the final hole. How nervous were you?
Not nervous, but I will go back because I think it was by the fifth hole, and I will shout out Sawyer Howard right now, because he caught me on the fifth hole, like the fifth hole in the round. And it wasn't like, I think I had like maybe 2 bogeys at that point, but he was just like on fire. And not only that, but then we also had this crazy skip ace on hole 18 that we somewhat witnessed. It was like maybe the calmest ace I've ever witnessed, because it was like 18's kind of blind. It was forehand, and just kind of like Went, and then it was the lightest tingle of chains, or like, was that someone putting, or maybe that was in the basket? I don't know. We walk up and it was like, oh, it's in the basket, and I was like, yeah, congrats, and that was like kind of it. But we all know that, shout out Brady Goff for that one. We all know he was very excited. So, but yeah.
And how much did he win in the ace pot on it?
He didn't buy in, and I mean, Jesse.
Ladies and gentlemen, buy your ace pot.
That wasn't the only ace. I think, Jesse, you saw one too.
Yeah. Second round, shout out to Calvin, who got an ace on hole 5. Cool ace. Hit a tree and like skipped in so soft that it almost didn't make enough noise for you to think it could be an ace. We're all looking, and there's a pink circle in the bottom of the cage, of course. So anticlimactic when you didn't know it happened, like just like casual high five it off. But yeah, he sits down on the next bench and goes, "That's sick. It's my first tournament ace." Something like that. Didn't buy the ace pot. 2 aces, no ace pot buyers.
Unbelievable.
And what we do with the Rusty series is we don't award the cash. We move it to the next event. So this Rusty Springs is coming up this weekend at our new Radium course. We'll have pretty much almost double the ace spot. So, but yeah, back to your original question. Going into the last hole, I had a rough idea that we were pretty close in score. I didn't know exactly where we were, but I'm just kind of doing the math in my head, and I was like, he's been shooting really well. I think we're either I'm a stroke up or we're tied. I just kind of knew I had to put it close to the basket, and I think I went first. I was first on the tee, and I put it to within like 8 feet, and I was like, sick. And then of course I'm watching, just so everyone knows, Sawyer's like 11, and just like lacing these. His forehand is unreal. But that was one of the holes where, unfortunately, it was like the only reason I was there is because I got it. It was because he's 11 and it was like a 260 or 270 foot hole, and I was able to get there and he wasn't. So, huge shout out to Sawyer. It was awesome to battle with him. Even though neither of us knew really how close it was the whole time, it's just like it was a really, really great time. Really good card. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
And when I started disc golfing, it was like, oh, wow, this 16-year-old's going to be better than me in a few years. And then like a couple of years ago, it was like, uh-oh, this 14-year-old's going to be better than me next month. And now it's, oh, this 11-year-old's already better than me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think because it must have been like 2 or 3 years ago, Sawyer's older brother, Mason, I was playing in a tournament with him. And I think I said to him that day, I was like, oh, man, like, you're going to be like beating me really soon here. And then he beat me that tournament. And then I didn't say it to Sawyer that tournament because I knew there was a chance that it was going to happen. So, but yeah, so shout out to Sawyer. He has like maybe one of the most buttery forehands in MA2. So yeah, that was well,
congratulations. Yeah, a win is a win.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah. Screw them kids. Am I right?
Screw them kids.
Except for the Howards. They're awesome.
They're super.
Yeah, those Howard boys love their disc golf. That's for sure.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I think the thing I found most impressive about Sawyer was just, like, how, like, his disc golf smarts. Like, he just, like, there was times when you're like, it's kind of a dicey putt, but then he just, like, laid it up super casual, put it underneath, and just, like, and didn't even think about it. He's like, no, this is not one that I should be running. And just, like, his mental processing of which putts he needed to like go for and which ones he didn't were like, it was awesome to watch. So cool to see that at such a young age. Anyways, we do have our Rusty Springs is moving to Radium, which is of course that Jesse and I have worked quite a bit on in the last few years. So this will be the inaugural tournament there. It's kind of a debut of the whole 18-hole course as well. So Jesse just finished putting in the temporary baskets today, and we're going to play the tournament in its current layout and hopefully get some feedback and before we put the permanent ones in. So excited for that.
Yeah, played differently with the baskets on, like just maybe the psychological part of it or the way the target catches. I'd say it's changed some of the holes significantly going from a tone to a basket, and that's not something I'd ever taken into account before.
Yeah, I think I take into account the opposite of what you mentioned before this podcast. Like, I hate putting on tones. And so if like there's a basket there, it's like, to me it's easier, but the way you made it sounded like hole one, it's kind of this elevated this elevated basket, and it's playing harder and more consequence, I think. So
Yeah, we can go over that for a second for sure. Like the tones they have there are very long and tall, and so the hit zone is very vertical, where the basket is like a shorter horizontal one, but the start of that hit zone is higher in the air, so it makes the elevated putt elevated by as much as another 2 feet. And for people that haven't played that course, hole one is an elevated basket. And yeah, even today, playing casually with the guy that helped me set up the baskets, we saw some back and forth miss putts where I don't think I'd ever seen that on the tone pool.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, should be a blast. If you guys are ever in Radium, come check out the course. We'd love to hear feedback. We don't want to hear the feedback that's like, oh, you need to do more work on this course. We want to hear the feedback of like, this isn't safe, or this doesn't work out that well, or that's the kind of stuff that we want to hear. So hit us up if you like the course, or if you didn't.
And bring your swimsuit. Every time I go visit you, I always forget to bring my swimsuit.
That's true. Yeah.
To go to the hot springs.
Literally named Radium Hot Springs. So that is the name of the village for a reason. Yeah. So we also had Jonesboro last weekend. Max and Thomas played. Wasn't the best showing. I think Thomas finished 35th, and Max lower than that. So
Max had a good start this time, though. He's had rough starts at tournaments. Oh, yeah. So now he had a good start. So we're putting all the pieces together.
Yeah, that's good. We didn't have any Canadians on the FPO side, but that's okay. Albert Tom, first top 10 in a disc golf pro tour silver major or higher since 6th at the Preserve in 2022. That was a Jesse stat there, so way to pull that one out.
That Mando, please hire me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jesse, these are your stats. Why don't you go over the rest of these?
I closed the document already.
All right. Yeah.
I can only put a couple more.
Yeah, it's all good. You had Paul Macbeth. His average finish so far this season is 49th.
That's a yikes from me, boss.
Yeah, that's gross.
He's like my car in the second weekend of May. Washed.
I think we have...
He's not... There's no way he's healthy. The way he's playing, there's not a chance in hell that he's anywhere near healthy right now.
I think his brain might just not be in it with the new kid.
That's what I was going to say. I got a kid. I know how much it affects your head space a little bit. And when you're a professional athlete, maybe it's just different. I don't know.
Paul Macbeth is a lot of things, but weak on the mental side of the game, he is not. Maybe he's not getting enough sleep, but he's injured. He was injured. He hurt his shoulder, and he's not getting surgery on it. And he was hoping that, the magic fairy dust. What's that stupid quarterback's name? Aaron Rodgers. He's on some sort of Aaron Rodgers plan probably, and I think he's just putting off surgery, which is not dumb. It's a smart thing to do, is try non-surgical routes for healing. But
yeah.
There's no way he's healthy. When he was healthy, he was still one of the best players in the world. And I joke about him being washed, but there's no way the guy's throwing it 100%.
I mean,
close to 100%.
Go 20 episodes back on this podcast, and the title of the podcast was literally Paul's Washed. So, yeah. And I think that was Matt calling a shot back then. So,
yeah, I mean, Ryan Watson said I was wrong, and who's laughing now? Ryan Watson.
Yeah.
No, and I didn't even say he was washed. I just said he wasn't going to be that guy that was challenging week in, week out at every event. He was going to show up better at some events than other events, and he was still my pick to win Worlds that year. But he's not going to be it's not the Ricky and Paul, one of the two of them winning every week anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I was right about that too.
Yeah.
But I think he's not 100%. And I think there's a chance that by the end of the year he might be, or he's going to get surgery, would be my guess.
Yeah, I can see that happen. Stat. I don't know, Paul, do you got anything on Paul, Jesse?
No, I checked some other stats looking for tagline type stats, and you always check Rick against Paul, and I think Rick's worst finish is well inside the top 20 this year, and he's probably averaging inside the top 10. That's always the rivalry that you check for that space, and wonder if it's the beginning of some separation, or like you said, maybe Paul's just not quite right and he's on the rebound.
Yeah. You also had in here Owen's worst finish of the year was at Jonesboro, and that was 10th. So,
yeah, what an impressive start from Owen to have 10th as her worst finish. And I think I had another line in there that's still 14 spots above the cut line.
So it's crazy.
Well,
it's insane. She's just on another level.
Yeah, for somebody that's like a 40-plus competitor, I think she's almost without a doubt the best 40-plus competitor to their respective division that we've seen.
Yeah. I feel like
considering she's like statistically the second best player in the entire world, yeah, it's hard to argue that.
Yeah.
I mean, even in the entire world statistically, I'm talking about against the MPO field as well. I don't think we've seen anybody perform after that 40 mark as consistently well as Owen Scoggins.
Yeah.
You talk about Kale and people like that, but it seems like 40 is a scary number for an MPO disc golfer.
Yeah, totally.
It used to be. And Sarah Hokum was still getting top 10s, but Owen is on a different level.
Yeah. Trying to think of anyone else in MPO that comes to mind. I mean, you have like people that dominate their division, like Johnny McRae, but he's not playing Disc Golf Pro Tours in the MPO field, right? So
for sure, I think like maybe there's an argument for Juliana Korver because she's a 50-plus age player playing in FPO, but there's not as many headlines surrounding her, even though she is very competitive in the division. But back to the MPO side, I think Kale LaVisca is maybe like your best option in the 40-plus.
I mean, you see like, yeah, Kale LaVisca is definitely the best option. And then I'll just mention as someone that's been able to keep himself in the spotlight is Scott Stokely. Just, he's always hanging around. Maybe not cashing as much, but, he's always kind of in the spotlight. So.
Yeah, that guy's like athlete's foot. He won't go away.
Yeah.
Can you not sort the PDGA player search by rating anymore?
Yeah, so you can.
Totally.
Stack out, Jesse. You'll find it. What you looking for, boy?
It's Kristen, and then is it Owen as the second highest rated player now?
I think so.
Oh, yeah. So then for that, I think you go to membership, player statistics. And then you go gender, female, search, and click ratings. And Owen is the second highest rated player at 989. 983, Missy close behind, Evelina 977. But 999 for Big Kristen Tatar. Yeah. 1 point away from breaking that 1,000 mark, and I think it's coming.
It's gotta be.
What if Owen Scoggins beats her? What if Kristen has a terrible Music City Open and Owen Scoggins plays 10-15 rated golf for the next month and becomes the first woman to 1,000?
I like it.
They should name the sport Owen Scoggins if that happens.
Yeah.
We're all playing some Owen Scoggins this weekend.
Yeah. The Professional Owen Scoggins Association.
Moving on to in the Disc Golf Pro Tour, they're in Nashville this weekend. We do have the usual Max and Thomas Canadians in the MPO field, and Chantel, as you will soon hear, is also down there as well. So definitely worth keeping an eye on those. I know Chantel's got some goals to hit when she's down there. So, and then going mainstream, chess.com will be on CBS Sports this weekend as well. So that's pretty awesome. Usually it's one of those things where you have to wait a little while longer before it goes on to these big sports networks. And this time it's I don't know, maybe a little faster turnaround than what we're used to seeing. So pretty cool to see.
That's exciting for the exposure that's going to get. Do you know what time slot it is? We're not playing it like 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. between the shopping channel and the dirty movies?
I think it's at a good time slot. I'll have to check it out. For some reason, that came up.
This is some thrilling radio. Speaking of chess, anybody watching the candidates tournament going on right now?
No.
I can't say I've actually ever watched chess.
It's fun. It's a game that lends itself to quote unquote post-production, watching on YouTube after it's done, because it's exciting, it's thrilling, it's interesting. But it's classical chess is so slow, like 4-hour games plus. Yeah, it's like a baseball doubleheader.
Jeez.
Wow.
Baseball's bad enough. Imagine chess.
Yeah.
I did pull it. I did manage to pull it up 6 o'clock Pacific, so it is a good time slot.
That is a good time slot.
Yeah. Thanks. But it's so in chess they have a world champion, judged by their version of the PDGA FIDE, and that player is the world champion for the whole year, and you can't challenge them like Old West duel style. But the top 8 players, based on a whole bunch of different criteria, and mostly like tournaments played and results in tournaments that count. And for a tournament to count, there has to be a certain number of good players in it. So they play the whole year, and then whoever's got like the most points, it's kind of like the Pro Tour finale. The top 8 play in a tournament, a double round robin tournament against each other. And the winner of that wins the opportunity to play against the world champion at the World Championship, where they play like, I don't know, 25 games or some crazy.
At 4 hours a game, it takes you a month to get out of the tournament, and that's up.
They play one game a day for like a couple of weeks.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And you're like, 1 game a day? Come on, can't these people play more? And then you watch them like thinking hard for 4 straight hours. Have you ever tried thinking hard for 4 straight hours? It's impossible.
Never even considered it.
It just looks brutal. It's like, yeah.
Yeah,
just
thinking
using
so
your
hard
imagination
lose
for
weight
4 hours. Yeah.
and stuff that these guys are doing. It's yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if anybody else out there is watching the chess, but it has been a really good, exciting candidates tournament. So it's going to come down to the wire. And by wire, I mean a 4-hour game.
Yeah, the wire's a steel cable that could pick up an elephant, but it's still a wire, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I think it's a pretty good time to get to the interview. But before we do that, let's talk about our sponsor, DiscGolfPark. They're a unique disc golf course concept developed in Finland in 2005, and it is based on the idea of building sports facilities in an environmentally friendly way. DiscGolfPark provides great experiences for players of all skill levels, from beginners to professionals, and our main ideology is to introduce disc golf to new audiences. There are several options to suit any kind of course, and all official disc golf parks include professional and safe course design, Disc Golf Park Pro targets, tee pads and tee signs, and an info board to welcome players to your course. The Disc Golf Park World concept consists of multiple courses designed for different types of players. Multi-golf is a new, fun activity for the whole family, and in multi-golf, 3 forms of golf are played: foot golf, disc golf, and park-style pitch and putt.
Chinese golf.
School Disc Golf Park offers students a new and exciting form of exercise for the physical education classes. A course suitable for schools can be designed even in a small area, for instance, a schoolyard. Furthermore, the costs of school disc golf park are lower than those of regular disc golf parks. We also offer private and group lessons or clinics. For more information, check out the website at discgolfpark.com and request a quote today. If only the kids that invented disc golf in Bladworth, Saskatchewan had a disc golf park basket to learn on.
Yeah, they might be alive still to this day.
Oh, no.
Is that where you were going with that, or no? That's not what you
No, that was not whatever I was going with that.
Their pilots wouldn't have fallen off the targets, I think is where we're going.
Yeah, they're not just drawing circles in the sand. You know, they're elevating their game right off the hop. Disc Golf Park.
How cool was that to go to the birthplace, as far as we know?
Pretty sweet. We probably stepped on the first target at some point, walking around that field.
Yeah.
So, That was pretty.
And there's no plaque.
Nothing. Just like
we should make a plaque.
Yeah, we didn't even know if we were in the right place. And someone's like, "Oh yeah, the schoolyard is that 2-story house up there."
Oh,
yeah, it was a big deal. 100 years ago, I think it was like the only 2-story house in like 500 miles or something like that. Yeah, awesome, beautiful.
People came from miles around to see a second floor.
That's right. Yeah,
yeah. Cool. Well, I think without further ado, we'll bring in our interview with Chantel. Matt and I sat down with her, and it was awesome. So I can't wait for you guys to hear that. And that is starting now. All right, and welcome to the show, Chantel Budinsky. We're so excited to have you on. She's one of our famous touring pros down south. She's touring a lot down there this year. She spent some time down there last year, and she came away with a big win last year. So that was huge. It was big for Canada, putting Canada on the map in the disc golf world, and we're so excited to have you on. Welcome to the show, Chantel.
Thank you so much for having me.
So why don't we just start right from the beginning? You've accomplished a lot in the sport already, but why don't we start with how you first got into disc golf? Start right at the beginning.
Sure. Okay, so it was about 4 years ago. Chris and I were just walking our dogs at Lakewood Park, and we saw the baskets. We thought they looked really funny, so we Googled what it was, and it turned out to be disc golf. So we bought some just cheap Dollarama Frisbees and went out there and threw about 1 million throws on each hole. And then ever since then, we've just been playing every day.
That's awesome. And when did you decide that YouTube was sort of the route that you wanted to go? Because you have a pretty strong following there, and all of your across all your social media. So, when did you decide that was something that you wanted to pursue?
Once we kind of got into disc golf more seriously, I noticed that every time I would look for a course in Canada, I couldn't find like what it looked like. But in the States, they did have videos, so I was like, oh, maybe we should start going around in Canada and filming some of the courses, and that's just how it started. And then all of a sudden people were following us and watching our channel, and now we're here.
Awesome. We obviously produce some media ourselves, and so I'm just curious, how does that dynamic with editing and stuff, is that all your partner kind of doing the camera work? And then do you have like a plan that you guys put together, like, oh, what are we going to record this week, and how does that all work with you on the back end?
Yeah, so we try to come up with ideas beforehand, especially since we only have one course where we are, so we have to kind of plan where we're going, what we're going to film. But he does most of the editing. I will basically do the dirty work where I clip everything together, and then he'll go through and he'll time it correctly and put up all the nice, beautiful graphics. And so we have a pretty good workflow that we have, but yeah, he does a lot of work for the channel, and he does a good job.
Cool. And I guess my last question before I let Matt take over for a little bit does he play on a higher level as well, or is he kind of just kind of follow you on the tour, or how does that all work?
So he's always looking to get better at disc golf. He plays in MA1 in Canada. In the States, I think he sticks to MA2 because it's such a much bigger field over there. So he wants to get better. Obviously, I'm kind of taking over when we're on tour. So, but he's always looking to play.
Very cool.
So, how did you go from checking dollar store Frisbees to signing up for your first tournament? How did you even find out that tournaments were a thing?
It was actually 2 weeks after we started playing. We just ordered on Amazon, like the starter kit, I think it was the Innova starter kit. And 2 weeks after, we saw that there was a tournament at our home course. So we're like, why not sign up and see how we do? So I think I played an FA, was it FA4 or FA3? Maybe FA3. And it was just me and some other lady, and I won. I was putting with my leopard. It's so funny to look back at that. But yeah, then after that, that's when COVID hit. So we were going to play our first sanctioned tournament, and then it was kind of put on the back burner. But then after that, it was like, we just started playing. We wanted to play more and more tournaments, because playing tournaments, you just learn so much, and meeting all the people, and it was just so much fun. And yeah, we just got hooked.
How's the women's contingent down in Southern Ontario? Like, were there enough women that you were like, oh, this is a thing that women do regularly, or was there only a couple and you were thinking like, oh, this is a great opportunity to get into something?
So when I was in FA1, we've probably had like 5, 6, 7 ladies playing. The FPO was pretty small. I think it was mostly just Colleen and Sandy at the time. So when I jumped to FPO, it was the 3 of us. Sometimes we would have 1 or 2 other ladies, but now it's becoming much better. We have Foxwood coming up and there's like, I think 11 of us. That might not seem like a lot, but it's grown quite a bit since when I first started.
Yeah. What's more welcoming, just having different faces on the card or having new people come up to compete with? What's most exciting about the growth in the FPO division for you?
Just first of all, like watching the ladies from FA2 and FA1 slowly moving up because everyone's getting better. So that's exciting. And then it's always really great to have more than one card in the FPO division and having more competition, because it's a competition, you want to like verse other people. So that's nice now that like filling out 2 cards is really good here. So I'm just excited, and especially because I don't play in Canada that much. So now when I get to meet the new people who have been kind of playing all throughout the year, that's also really exciting. So just like meeting the new women and playing with them and seeing their games, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and was that kind of transition like, coming from Canada where there are less FPO players, and going down and playing in these pro tours where it's like, that's the focus of it's FPO and it's MPO, and those are the 2 divisions that are the main focus of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. What was that like as far as just dealing with the transition between maybe, I don't want to say an afterthought, but, the FPO division, it's not as big as the MPO or even MA1. So what was that sort of transition into seeing, the more of that focus on you guys?
Yeah, so the first big tournament that we went to play for FPO was Throw Pink, actually. And it was so eye-opening. Like, they just cared so much about the FPO division, well, the whole tournament, but they were just, you could tell that they put so much thought into like our layouts and all that stuff. And here in Canada, it's kind of like we're just playing the MPO layout. It's not really designed for us. So that was really nice. And every year they're making even more of an effort to improve our layouts, which is amazing because it's just more fun when you can watch us and we're actually scoring, and it's yeah. So that was like the big thing, just seeing how they really put in effort for the FPO division.
Very cool. Yeah, and I guess it is nice to see that transition. And I think even in Canada, I feel like, tournament directors are starting to think about that stuff a lot more. I feel like the whole sport as a whole is just kind of moving in that direction of listening to the ladies that want to play and what they want to do. So and I hope that, especially at these higher tournaments, these A tiers and whatnot in Canada, that just kind of continues to go that way. So just going back to the start of your career, that first tournament you played in, that was in what division was that?
I didn't have a PDGA number, but
okay.
I think it was an FA3.
Okay.
It could have been FA4, I'm not sure, but it was, yeah, I didn't play very well, but it was fun.
all this to say is that we're looking at your numbers from back in 2020, and you got a first place in FA2, a first place in FA1, and then you have a first place in FPO, 4th place in FPO, 2nd place in FPO, and 3rd place in FPO. So that's some pretty good numbers. And we also see an MA1 finish of 11th place. So doing quite well in the MA1 division as well. So that's pretty good for your first year.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. And so like, I guess, we touched on what it was like to start your YouTube channel, but when did you decide that going down and playing on the Pro Tour was something that you wanted to pursue?
I think I just got so consumed by disc golf right away. I was watching every single FPO coverage that I could find on YouTube. And I just kept thinking to myself, like, I feel like I could do this. I don't know why, I just want to do it so bad. So once I started getting a little bit better, getting some more distance, and then like going to Michigan and playing with all the females there because they have a little bit of a bigger scene there, and I was doing really well, and I was like, okay, so maybe I should try to go play on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. And then also going to Amateur Worlds and placing third was also a thing that made me feel like, okay, maybe I should take the leap and, you know, put in a lot of time and effort and see maybe where it goes.
Did you have a sport that you were involved in either competitively or recreationally before you found disc golf?
Really, I like to fish, and we hiked and kayaked, but nothing really. Like when I was in grade school, I liked track and field, not baseball, basketball and volleyball, but nothing that I just did all the time. I was very competitive my whole life though, so I feel like this was just perfect for me.
Right. And I love in your videos that you and Chris are not afraid to compete with each other over a lunch or something like that. So it's
Yes.
Yeah, I imagine it was a natural progression to, if you know, you find the place where you're competitive, and if you're good there, then find another place to be competitive. What was how important was it to get down into the States and get that kind of context of like, okay, I know how good I am in this small world of Canadian disc golf, but was it play against just the number of other players in the division, or was it like, did you find specific players that you got to play against to kind of benchmark yourself against?
I wanted to see kind of where I sat with all the women who are playing. It wasn't like a specific person, but it was, okay, where do I sit? So if there's 50 women playing a tournament, I feel like I should be at least in the middle. That's how I always think. But now I feel like I should at least be playing top 20. It just depends if my mind's right that week. So I'm getting the consistency, and I do think that I should be placing top 20. So that's kind of where I'm trying to place every tournament. Hopefully I can start doing it more consistently.
Yeah, that's a great place to start. So now that you've had a chance to play some of the events on the tour, what are some of your favorite stops that you've made, and which ones are different playing the course than watching them? Like, what have been some surprises for the courses that you've experienced so far?
Okay, well, my favorite tournament is definitely US Women's. Even though it's at a different course every time, I love being there with all the women. There's so many new faces, and it's just like it's a major, so it just feels extra special. But that's definitely every year I wanna be playing there. Now for what course? I feel like I really enjoyed DGLO. Luckily I get to play there this year as well. It's just so different being there and seeing how like high and how low you have to throw. It's such a, like, you don't get to do that anywhere else. So that's probably surprising watching it to actually playing it. I don't know anywhere else that really surprised me. I think also when you're actually there, the distances are kind of shorter than when they're on the camera. Even though I still can't reach half of the holes, but like it seems shorter when you're actually there.
I can see that. I mean, we have experience behind the camera, and even when you're looking, you're like, huh, I don't remember this hole looking so long. Like, it looked pretty short.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that we've noticed for sure. Speaking of United States Women's Disc Golf Championships, you finished 11th and took home $1,950, so $1,950. How does that feel to do so well at that tournament, especially being one that you're a big fan of?
It felt really great. And I finished, I think, 26th place last year, and I was feeling pretty good about that. So I wanted to improve on that, and I did buy a lot. So that felt really, really good. And to almost get that top 10 at a major, it was a really good feeling.
I guess, I mean, speaking of good feelings, I think we can go back to when you won the Silver Series last year. How did that feel, especially, putting Canada on the map? I mean, it's such a big deal. I don't even know how to express it. It meant a lot to us to see you up there. So, and I know a lot of Canadians, especially in the ladies division. So, how did that feel for you?
It was an amazing weekend. I went into the tournament not thinking that I was going to win, definitely not thinking I was going to win, but I wanted to do really well, like at least top 5. So when I was still first after the second round, I was like, oh my gosh, maybe I can actually win this thing. And then I just played an amazing round. And then it was history, literally. So it was just so amazing to know that I have the ability to not mess up the last round, hold on and actually play a really great round to finish off a big tournament that meant a lot. So I always like to think about that weekend and just kind of remind myself, you know how to play disc golf and you can do this. So when I'm having a hard time out there, I can remind myself of, yeah, you know what you're doing a little bit, at least.
How cool was it to be on lead card at the American Flying Disc Open, and then you look over and Colleen McInnes is on the card with you, the woman that I assume have probably played the most FPO rounds with in Canada.
Yes.
How good was it to have some fellow compatriots? And I think Sandy was also sneaking around the top 10 there for a good chunk of it. So how nice was it to have your regular competitors there with you?
It was comforting, and like I said before, I was like, okay, if I don't win, at least Colleen could win. One of us could get that Canadian title. So it was it was fun, and she was having such a good time. We were all having such a great time. Like, the vibes were so good on that card, so I think that also helped me do really well. Like, we were just having such a good time. So it was nice having her there.
Do you get that feeling when you have Canadians come down, just in general, even if they're on the MPO side, or at other tournaments where there are amateur divisions? Is it nice to see other Canadians coming down to these big events in the States?
I love it, and I love following them as well and seeing how they're scoring. It's just, I don't know what it is. I feel like the Canadians have such a tight, supportive disc golf community, and we're all just so supportive of each other, and that's why I think it's just so fun when we all get together and we go down to the tournaments. Like, a couple years ago, a bunch of us got a cabin and went to D-Glow, and that was it was so much fun, and talking about the tournament after, and it's just, yeah, I really like it when my friends come. Like, when Kat comes to Disc Golf Pro Tours with me, it just makes it way better.
Good. Yeah, makes it feel like home a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
So we started the Canadian Disc Golf Tour last year. We're going to be running it again this year, and it's almost unfortunate timing for you, because you are now pretty committed to the Disc Golf Pro Tour. But what do you think it means, and maybe even kind of go back and think back to when you're playing more in Canada? What would it mean to ladies and other divisions as well? What do you think it means to have something like the Canadian Disc Golf Tour that you can use as a stepping stone to get to the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and maybe put yourself on the map a little bit for sponsors and get that support that you need to pursue a career? It's one of our things is that we really want to be able to promote the players that are playing in these Canadian tournaments. So I guess just touch on what that means to the up and comers.
Yeah, I think it's really important, and I love when Park Pro or any other like disc golf YouTube people, they come out to film us, and then it puts us out there, and other people can watch and they can see, oh, okay, so there's actually women who are doing really well in disc golf in Canada. So it would be nice if more of us could get to the Pro Tour events or like bigger events as well, to get our name out there, because really that's like the main place where you're gonna get people to see you. So, and it is pretty hard to get into the Disc Golf Pro Tour events now. So I think the majors are where we're more likely to get in, and then it's like, are you going to place well? I don't know. Are you going to get your name out? But I think it's important for these tournaments in Canada. And so where is Canadian Nationals this year?
It'll be in Clearwater, but it is the same weekend as the tournament at Hot Goat, unfortunately.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, because that's a Q series, so that's kind of important for everyone too down here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Canadian Nationals also gets you a place in 2 tournaments, Champions Cup, right?
I'm not sure.
I think
You probably know more about that than we do.
Last year it did. I don't know if that's an
Yeah,
ongoing
it did
thing.
last year,
Yeah.
which that's a big thing. Like that's a major that you could go play if you place well at the Canadian Nationals. So that's important, and I feel like we need more of those here in Canada. So just like now we have a Q series Diameter Open, and if you win, you get points towards a Pro Tour card, right? So that's very important.
Yeah, and I mean the nice thing is that we're starting to see more of these things pop up in Canada, and it's also even from from a Masters perspective. There's a few tournaments on the Masters Tour that are now in Canada as well. So it's nice to see that the sport is growing beyond just the States as far as the professional levels go. So hopefully that continues.
Yeah, it would be really cool to have like a nice big Pro Tour in the Canada. In the Canada.
In the Canada.
It would be nice, so we didn't have to travel all the way. We could just stay in Canada and have our own tour.
Yep, that is our goal, and obviously with our coverage, we want to make it as polished and as nice as we possibly can too. So that's important to us as well.
Yeah, and you guys do a very, very good job.
Thank you.
So it was pretty early in the season, so I'm not sure everybody saw it, but you did fantastic commentary in our FPO coverage at the Foxwood Open for 2023. How did you enjoy that experience, and is that something that you might want to do again as your career goes on? Was it fun, or was it nerve-wracking?
It was both. I feel like I'm not the best at commentary. I think I overthink stuff, but it was definitely fun. I feel like everyone should do it at least once. It's weird to commentate on yourself. I've done it on my YouTube channel, so I feel like I'm a little bit, I don't know, a little bit better than before, but it's still always weird to talk about yourself.
Well, you did a great job. Both of you did a great job. It's funny, the women that we've had do commentary generally avoid talking about themselves as much as possible, to the point where you're not even sure that they're on the card. And usually when we have a man on the card, they talk about themselves too much. They're not too much. So.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I would say that you guys did a really great job though, and it was got some great insight into it. So check out the FPO coverage from 2023 Foxwood Open to see and hear Chantel on that. I've got a question for you. Paige Pierce, Jeremy Colling, Nico LaCastro, Cale LaVisca, Will Schusterick, Chris Dickerson, Chantel Budinsky. What do they all have in common?
Were we all on Prodigy?
They were all core team members. You're in elite company now. You got a promotion to the big time with Prodigy. How exciting was that? Was that something that you saw coming? Was that something that was in your plans, or was it a little bit out of the blue, like, oh, here I am?
I mean, I always wanted to be on the core team. So I was thinking after I won the AFDO, I was like, maybe this is my chance now. And yeah, it worked out. So I was still surprised. But I was like, well, I feel like I've earned my way. I'm the top FPO right now. There's some up-and-comers coming, so I have some competition. Gonna keep me on my toes. But I just felt like, yeah, this would be like a good time to be on the core team.
Have you always been Prodigy through and through? Is that kind of how you started your disc careers right from the get-go?
So actually, for the first 2 years, I wasn't sponsored by anyone, but I never even touched a Prodigy disc. And Colin reached out to me a couple times, and it was still early in my career. I didn't know if I really wanted a sponsor. But then after talking to him a little bit more and seeing what they had to offer, I was like, you know what, this actually sounds really great. And they've been really, really supportive. And I'm happy that I'm with them. They've been showing me just a lot of support.
And you've got fresh this year a 750 Glimmer F3, right? Is your signature disc?
Yes.
What do you like about the F3? I'm sure you've talked about it a lot of times, but if somebody hasn't thrown an F3, and specifically in that 750 plastic, what's so special about that disc?
So I've been throwing the F3 basically the whole time I've been with Prodigy. It's just such it's a neutral flying, slower speed. It's a fairway, and it just like it's so easy to manipulate and get to do what you need to do. So if you just need a hyzer flip, if you need something to turn over, if you need like a pushing hyzer, there's just so many things that you can do with it, and it's also great for forehand. So it just made sense for me to choose that disc. And the 750 plastic, I feel like adds a little bit more stability to it, so that's why I picked that. And it turned out so amazing.
Yeah, they're beautiful. What kind of input did you have on the artwork on those things?
So it was about the evolution of flight. So anything you picked, so if it was the M series, so mid-ranges, it was a different category. F was like flying machines. That's why I picked a hot air balloon. So they had like categories that you could pick from and different things. So I picked the hot air balloon, and I kind of told them what I wanted, and they're just killing it on the artwork, like on the videos. Prodigy is just doing so well, and they are so easy to work with as well. So I just told them what I wanted. They sent it to me. It looked great. I changed a little bit of something here and there, but they're just so easy to work with. And then there we go. There's a great stamp. I don't even have to worry about it, really.
Their Prodigy discs, they're the some of the plastic they come out with and the stamps, it's just like they've really upped their game in the last few years. It's awesome to see. I'm a big fan of nice looking discs, mostly why I throw them. So.
I'm a big fan of that 750 plastic. I think that's the best plastic.
Yeah, I've been really liking that plastic lately. It feels good, and it's a little bit more stable. So I love it.
Yeah. And if somebody, let's say, wanted to buy 1 or 10 of those, where would be the best place to get those to support you?
The best place to support me would be discrepublic.ca using code MissFrisbees. They've been doing such a great job as well supporting me out on the road. So definitely get your discs there.
Yeah, they're very, very quickly becoming one of the biggest retailers in Canada, that's for sure. Lots of selection. You also have Towel, correct? Go Towel?
Yes.
Which is also
yes, I do. The Go Towel.
So.
I know, and I didn't even know that until they reached out to me this year. And I've been using Go Towels the whole time that I've been playing disc golf, and I was like, there's no way that I didn't know they were like a couple hours away from me.
Crazy, yeah.
I know.
It was one of the first items that I got for Park Pro as like a something to sell or give away for promotional reasons, and that was kind of like I wanted something Canadian. I was like, perfect, Go Towels. It's like a no brainer. So they're fantastic towels. If you haven't used a Go Towel, they're so good. They got the 2 sides and a fantastic artwork as well.
They're the greatest of all towels, yes. I believe.
What?
It's like they're the goat.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you wanted to promote on here while you have our captive audience?
Sure, of course. Go follow me on Instagram and YouTube at Miss Frisbees. We put out lots of fun content, me and my fiance Chris.
Awesome.
I think most people that are listening probably know about this, but if for some reason you're under a rock, you got to check out Chantel's content. You guys put in the work of making good and fun content. It's not just like here's me on the road. This is like you guys are very thoughtful about what you put out and you have fun with it. So yeah, definitely check it out. Now that you've got a win on the Pro Tour, you've almost top 10 at the major. How many more goals do you have left, and have you had to like think of new goals? Like how are you seeing this this next year and the next 5 years for you?
I'm just trying to increase my rating. I don't want to I don't want it to decrease. So last year I did a steady increase the whole year. This year I'm trying to do the same thing. It would be really nice to reach 950. That's like my big goal. Because playing consistent 950 golf, I feel like that's hard. But I want to be doing it. So that's like my main goal. I don't have any crazy goals where I'm like, oh, win a Pro Tour event. Like, I know where my game's at, and if Kristen's playing, like, good luck with that. But yeah, that's my main goal, is just to be consistent and get to 950.
I see that you have the Music City Open coming up, and you have PDGA Champions Cup coming up, and then you come back to Canada for a couple events. What makes you decide on which tournaments to come back to Canada for? And is it mostly just to kind of get take a break from the Pro Tour and come home and play a few tournaments? And is it like a comfort or a reset kind of thing, or what makes you decide those things?
If I can get to a Pro Tour event in my car, I will probably be there. So anything in the Midwest. Texas was the furthest we've been. It was a 20-hour drive. I would do it again, though, actually. I really enjoyed the Texas swing. So that's like where we decide on where to go for the Pro Tour. In Canada, it's mostly if it's an A tier. Because A tier is where I usually make the most money, so it helps fund like the rest of the season. And obviously Foxwood, I'm always going to be a Foxwood. It is a qualifier for Throw Pink. That's very important here in Canada for us. And I think Diameter Open is one as well this year, which is so cool, because now I think we have three spots for Throw Pink? So 3 Canadians can go play Throw Pink this year. That's so great. So yeah, anything A tier, I will probably be there for Canada unless there's a Pro Tour event on that same weekend.
Cool. And of course, Jonesboro is happening this weekend, and you are obviously with us and not playing.
Yes. Yes.
Are you looking forward to the Music City Open? And do you set goals for each tournament kind of thing? Or do you look at the registration and say, I want to finish above, these people? Or is there, like, how does that work for you?
A lot of the time, if I've played the tournament the year before, my goal would be obviously to do better than the year before. I would like to be cashing in every event. I feel like I should be. If I'm playing well, I definitely should be cashing. So that's like the main goal every time I'm playing a tour event. But yeah, I'm just I'm feeling like my form, I've been working on it a little bit. So I'm just hoping that I can throw straight, to be honest. Like, I just want to throw powerful straight shots. I've been working on my distance a little bit. I feel like I lost a little bit this off season. So I think that's kind of been in the back of my head this year, that I'm not throwing as far as I used to be. So I'm just trying to be confident off the tee, and hopefully that's good enough.
That's got to be one of the hardest things. Like, we've seen players throughout the year, like, the form comes and goes. And obviously this is something that everyone can relate to, is maybe you're great at putting in March, and then by June you have no idea how to putt anymore. And then by August you gain an extra 20 feet of distance. And then at the end of the year you lose it again. How difficult is it to manage the mental part of it when it's like, this is very clearly your job, and playing disc golf is like, this is your profession? How difficult is that mental challenge of, staying in a good headspace when you could just spiral into thoughts about your game and how it's going?
Yeah, honestly, for me, it's a little difficult because I feel like my game really goes up and down. Luckily, my putting has been pretty dang consistent. I can usually rely on it, but if I'm not having a good putting day, that's when my mental game really suffers, because now I'm like, okay, now I can't rely on my putting, and my throwing's not amazing. So now I'm like, it's really hard. And then especially when you're in like a rut and you have a tournament coming up and you're stuck in that rut and you're not feeling confident, that's really hard to get out of. And like the confidence, because I mean, I feel like disc golf is like 90% confidence. It's like, it's kind of crazy because we know how to do the shot. We've thrown it a million times, but yet here I am standing on the tee, terrified of what's going to happen. It's so crazy how your brain works, and I feel like I am getting a little bit better. I'm feeling a little bit more confident, but some weeks it's just really hard.
Yeah, I mean, we played a C tier yesterday, and I drove down from Invermere down to Cranbrook. It's about an hour and a half drive, and coming out of the winter where I didn't play much at all or putt or anything, I got onto the like even just like 5 minutes before the round started, I was like, how do I putt? How do I putt again? What do I do? I don't remember how to even play this sport. And then it's just so funny how it took like 3 or 4 holes to be like, oh yeah, this is just disc golf. And that's
Yep.
a C tier. I can't even imagine what it would be like, with the pressures of going on the pro tour. So, you mentioned, checking back in with your previous win on the Silver Series as a way to sort of have that mental reset. Is there any other strategies that you try to employ while you're in those ruts, or you're having those weak moments?
Yeah, so me and Chris have been working on just focusing. People say this all the time, just focus on the shot in front of you. And it's so true, because you can't be thinking about, oh my gosh, hole 16's coming up and I triple bogeyed that. I do that all the time. So you really can't think about the bad things that can happen. You just have to think about, what am I trying to do now? How do I do that? And then you just execute it, hopefully. So really, it's just trying to focus up and do what you got to do. I don't really know if there's any other way to do it.
How have you found a good balance during your like weekly routine in terms of like, this is an ideal number of practice rounds, this is, I want to spend 1 or 2 days putting in a week, and I want to make sure that I spend 1 or 2 days not doing anything at all disc golf related? Have you found a good balance? Is that still something you guys are working on as you experience sort of this first full year of touring in the States?
Yeah, we're still definitely working on it, because it depends on if we are there a week before or if we are there 2 days before, because we're leaving for MCO and I only have 2 days to practice, and I think it's not very good weather. So that's going to suck, because now you have to cram in practice in 2 days, and like, you still have to remember that you have to rest and, be rested for the rounds. And I think that's somewhere where I don't do very well, because I want to go out there, I want to practice, and then I want to have an hour of putting practice, and then my legs are tired, and then I'm tired, and it's like, I really have to find that balance, because that's probably something that I'm not good at. But I think once we're actually there all week and I have 4 days of practice, I'm a much better. I feel like I don't have to cram everything in. I can do only 20 minutes of putting here. I can have 3 days of practice and 1 day off. So it's pretty hard being from Canada and doing all of it and going back and forth and then coming home to work and then worrying about other things. If I was just on tour full time, I think it would be a lot easier. But until then, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, one of those other things that, for in your situation, you kind of also have to balance is, you have your YouTube channel that you're planning content for as well. So that's just another factor. I was going to ask, what's the balance? It's nice to be able to go to all these places and play. Is there a balance of, just kind of sightseeing and doing like playing tourism kind of thing? Is that something that you're also trying to get out of this the touring down in the States?
Yeah, so Chris and I are pretty bad at traveling. Like, we don't do anything. It's mostly all about disc golf, and then we're tired and we go rest. And we decided that this year we would try more to go sightseeing and enjoy where we are. Like, we're spending all this time and money getting to these places, and we should be enjoying it instead of just worrying fully about disc golf, which it's hard because you want to just be worrying about disc golf. Well, I do anyway. So, but I think you need that time to go see things and relax and take your mind off of everything that's happening. And we went to the zoo. So I think we did a really good job at going to do something after.
That's awesome. Zoos are always good.
It was fun.
It is tough though. You get tired with playing practice.
Yeah, I just want to go sleep.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit of a different animal, but it's the same thing when we're filming. It's, there we do want to try to get out and socialize. Even just socializing with people, it can be, after you're done filming around, it could be exhausting. And I'm sure it's the same way when you're playing. You're just like, okay, yeah, let's do this fun thing, and then, but I just really want to go take a nap.
It's true.
Yeah. Awesome.
Have you picked one or two things that you've seen in the very, very top players in the sport that you want to emulate? And was there anything surprising about, getting to play and see up close the, players that are closer to 1,000 in PDGA rating? Is there any one or two things that you identified that you're like, okay, this is what I got to do to get to that 950 and above?
Yeah, so I think it would be about the mental side of things. It's funny because I see it go both ways. So the top pros, they're so, well, like everyone knows Kristen, has such a great mental game. And then sometimes you see people kind of break down and show that they're human as well. And you're not the only one struggling here. So it's kind of been nice seeing it both ways. But honestly, I'm so jealous when people are just calm and collected. Oh, you messed up a shot, and they're just so cool about it. And they're not full of anxiety like I am. So that's something that I enjoy watching. If someone's on my card and they're just super chill about everything, dang, that must be nice.
And one thing that I think we can definitely get better at in Canada, in some places, is having better FPO layouts, like you mentioned. What makes a good FPO layout? Is there specific distances for the drives? Is there, is it having alternate baskets versus alternate tee pads? What have you noticed from the really good FPO layouts that you've got a chance to play that we could learn from in Canada?
I think that definitely distance is a huge thing. If we're playing an MPO layout and we have a bunch of 400-foot par threes, we're not going to be scoring. Our rating's going to take a huge hit because a lot of men can easily reach that hole. Us, we cannot. So that's the main thing that I see in Canada is we have a lot of harder pars. But I think that we could probably get away with mostly either shorter tees. Well, I guess, yeah, shorter tees or a different basket, but I know that makes it a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I feel like we can do most of the shot shapes that men can do, so it's not really dependent on the shot shape, it's mostly just the distances for us. I think that's basically it.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. We put out a number of rounds of FPO coverage, and the enjoyment, even if it's you're throwing the same shots, but having those shots get to 15 feet for birdie more often and just getting, having more scoring opportunities. It's the same players throwing the same discs, the same distances, but the level of entertainment goes way up. And I imagine it's more fun. I know for me personally, when I'm playing a super hard course and it's birdies or, maybe I get one, maybe I get zero. It's just more fun to get a few more birdies, right?
Yeah, it is. And I feel like it makes your confidence go up when you get a birdie. It always does. And so when you're struggling to even get a par, it just kind of puts you in a poopy mood. I call it that. And it's well, I can't get there for a birdie, so I'm hoping to get a par. And then when you're bogeying holes, it's oh man, this sucks. But yeah, so when we can get there for a birdie and then everybody's excited because then they're oh my gosh, this is a birdie opportunity, and then everybody's just having fun, and we just need.
I think it's part a key part of disc golf is you want to be successful. That's the whole point is you're trying your hardest, and when birdie is unattainable, it's just what am I doing?
Yeah, and I get a few holes here and there,
yeah,
I get it, but when it's most of the holes, that's a hard day.
Yeah, I bet.
So, are you saying you're offering your design services to any tournament directors and course designers? Would you be willing to give feedback to people on FPO layouts?
Yeah, for sure. Hit me up and I'll help you. I don't know if it'll be great advice, but I'll try my best.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be great. You're probably one of the most experienced with FPO specific layouts in Canada at this point. So, yeah, I think you have a wealth of knowledge in that department.
Yeah. And we'd love to see it. As like I said, filming birdies is way more fun. So tournament directors, if you don't have an FPO layout, get that FPO layout going. If it's if we're not seeing a lot of birdies, change a couple of the holes. We like birdies. Everyone likes birdies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I don't have any more questions. I don't know if you had anything else.
No, it's awesome to meet you. And yeah, we just we're constantly updating people on our podcast about your exploits down in the States, and everyone's super pumped for you up here in Canada still, and where everybody's following what you're doing. So yeah, keep on rocking it both on the course and on the video, and yeah, love what you're doing, and you're inspiring a whole generation of Canadian disc golfers to get into the sport and take it seriously. So I think it's really
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I guess, another a good time to maybe, if you have any sponsors you want to thank or anything else that you wanted to bring up or promote, this is probably the best time to do it. So.
Okay, well, of course, thank you, Prodigy Disc. They have been supporting me for over 2 years now, and I can't thank them enough. The goat towel, they made me an awesome towel, and you got to go check them out. DiscRepublic.ca. Head over there, buy my signature series disc with promo Miss Frisbees. And then also drive bags, best bags in the game. So go check them out.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it. You're kind of, it's one of those things where we kind of start checking out these people off the list of Canadians that we want to interview. So really happy to check you off the list, and hopefully we can have you back on and maybe check back in later in the season. So.
Yes, for sure.
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
Go get yourself a guitar down in Nashville.
I'll try my best.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chantel, for coming on. It was such a blast to have you on. And, it's kind of funny. Jesse and I were talking about it before this episode. We started recording. We don't really know Chantel out east here. I'm sure there's a lot of people that get to play with her. Out west. There's a lot of people that get to play with her out east and on a regular basis. And she's known a little bit more around there, but we don't really know her that well. So it was awesome to get to know her, and hopefully our listeners can do the same. Especially as she's pretty much the only FPO touring player we have right now from Canada. So. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, we get to see there's a few women that go up for occasional events, which is awesome. And it's great seeing more women traveling from Canada down to those events. But it is pretty cool to have a full-time FPO on tour.
Yeah.
And she's great. She's just such a good ambassador for the sport too.
Totally. And so if you haven't check her out, Miss Frisbees on YouTube, also on Instagram. So. She's an awesome personality to have in disc golf, and we're really proud of her up here in Canada. So, you guys want to have a quick little discussion here? I have a question. It's actually going to be a 2-part question now because of some recent news. At this very moment, I know Kristen won last week, but I guess I should pose this question as if it was last week. Is Owen the best disc golfer in the FPO division?
She's number 1 in the Pro Tour standings. First of all.
Yeah.
That's so super impressive. Yeah. I don't think this is a real hot take, but no, Kristen Tatar is the best woman in the world. Sure. Hands down. Even though she hasn't won every single event this year.
I just don't think there's enough attention being brought to how good a season Owen's having so far.
Yeah, she's crushing.
It's just insane. I know we already talked about all this, so we don't have to get into it. The real question is Anthony Barella the best disc golfer in the world right now? And
It's going to sound like Homer commentary, but I don't think the separation in placement between him and Gannon is enough yet to really call it one way or the other. Gannon did slip a little bit this week. I think he ended up with 7th. But I want to see 2, maybe even 3 more events in the can with one or the other pulling away before I'd want to call that one way or the other. But it does seem like we're seeing the beginning of a big change in who occupies that top 10 space on the tour.
Going into Jonesboro, they had both placed in the top 4 of the first 4 events.
Their placements were almost identical, but like swapping at events. This was the first departure we really saw from them going back and forth in similar positions.
Man. Anthony Barella is so interesting because I think anybody that watched him for any amount of time, you can see that there's no reason aside from what's between his ears that he shouldn't be the best disc golfer in the world for the last probably couple of years. He does things with a disc that nobody else can do in the world. And the last guy that could do those things tore his labrum. So, but Gannon Buhr has been a putting machine for longer. So there's something to be said for that. Even though he's not quite as good this year, he still has shown like 2 years of just being an assassin on the greens.
It's funny because this year, talking about the placing with Anthony Barella, was that Gannon Buhr had a couple spit outs, spit backs in each of those tournaments that could have changed him from podium finish to first place. I think twice, actually, where he didn't win. He could have, based on spit outs and stuff like that. It's easy to blame his putt, which I think is part of it, but not all of it. But when you're that close, like you're all the chains and pole away from winning those other events, it's giving more case to this being a close race anyway.
So what's your hot take? Who's going to finish first in the Pro Tour standings by the end of the year?
Cole Redon.
I
think Gannon's
3 events.
I think Gannon's that guy. I think AB is having a stint of being that guy, but I have way more history of AB failing to live up to that expectation than Gannon. Gannon has always exceeded my expectation every season over season, where this is the first time we're seeing anything really, really significant from AB other than a lead card where he chokes a bunch of putts, in years gone by. History says Gannon Buhr. I think his trajectory is still going upwards, but if he's got more wins right now, if you have to pick a guy to bet your life savings on, I guess it's a week where you'd pick Anthony Barella.
Wow, so you're riding the fence on that one. You're not picking one.
I'm just trying to give you something to come back with. But yeah, I'm picking Gannon for myself. But again, a life savings bet right now. There's nothing like riding the high off the win. He's performing right this minute. But by the time USDGC rolls around, I think we could potentially be singing a different tune.
I think I'll bring an analogy in here. My daughter a few months ago only said a couple words here and there, and then she went to daycare and stuff, and it's like she learned a few words, and now all of a sudden the floodgates are open. She's talking a lot. She doesn't stop. I think that's what's happening with Anthony Barella right now. I think we didn't see it for such a long time. He got that win, and now it's like he knows the feeling. He knows what it takes. He's got all that experience to go on, and now he's finally gotten over the hump. And I think now that he's learned to do that, I think that's something that will happen more and more. The one thing that I find interesting, they're both really young players. Anthony is more in his he's early 20s. So he's more in my mind, he's in his kind of early partying stage. I think Gannon's kind of got that youthful innocence in a way as far as that side of things go. So I don't know. it's something I always bring into the equation, because all it takes is for Anthony Barella to have a few too many pops and who doesn't perform as well, whereas Gannon, I don't know, it's another factor.
He's literally drinking pops.
Yeah, but exactly. I don't know. It's interesting. I pick AB for now, but I do. Yeah, Gannon's. I've always been a Gannon fan. So, but at this moment,
we talked about this. I don't remember if we talked about it in the podcast or not, but last year AB, he just didn't have that adult man energy to him, like the confidence that you have as an adult. He didn't have that. He was like a gangly, awkward kid in a 22-year-old body or 23-year-old's body or whatever. He didn't have that man confidence. And now I feel like he has a bit more of that man confidence.
No, you're a man. A man, man.
Oh, man. So he's got that going for him. But no, the best disc golfer in the world is Calvin Heimburg. He wrecked his elbow, didn't play Waco, came back with a 3rd place, a 5th place, and a T2 without a forehand. Remember when we made a big deal of Eagle McMahon winning the European Open without a forehand? Forehand is such an important tool these days on the tour. Like Jonesboro, it wasn't like a forehand off the tee dominant course, but there's still a bunch of shots that are forehand shots for 95% of the field. And he placed tied for 2nd. And he was a one-shanked drive away from winning that thing. So, if his elbow gets better and he gets his forehand back and his arm feels good, I still say Calvin Heimburg's the best player in the world. I'd take him over AB, even though, like, historically, neither of them was good at closing out events. I still think Calvin Heimburg's the best player in the world. I think he ends up with the most points at the end of the year.
It's funny because I've just thought of this for the first time. Calvin Heimburg might be like the dog that never got his day. The guy that was in between the Ricky Paul era and the Gannon AB era, that even though he was consistent enough to be winning tour championships, really never got enough time under the spotlight for how talented he was. Not enough top 3 podium finishes, or not enough big major titles with glitter on them, USDGC, Worlds, things like that. And the time might come and pass over him before he gets that opportunity.
Interesting.
Like a real Eric McCabe.
Yeah, like a world champion. But that's the thing. You'll know Eric McCabe if you are a guy 30 years from now that Googling world championships and looks at that Wikipedia page, his name will be on that list, and Calvin Heimburg won't be. And I think Calvin Heimburg is more than a lot better than Eric McCabe was, even in his best days.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Steve Brinster won one too. There's a bunch of guys.
USDGC winner.
Yeah.
And you know them as a bunch of guys.
Yeah. Who's that guy? It's not Charlie Goodpasture. Who's that guy that won one major like out of nowhere or something like that? I'll look it up. Anyway. Yeah. He could be the stepping stone guy, the guy that had to he didn't get to carry the Olympic torch, like he didn't get to go on the marathon, but like between Muhammad Ali and some other athlete, he had to like take it in his car and drive it across town to the next one. Like he carried the torch from Paul Macbeth to Gannonburn and AB. Maybe. I don't know.
Calvin's been playing MPO for 12 years based on what I'm seeing here. Like, he was in the trenches and did his time and never... Oh, man, what a sad time. Sorry. I'm very distracted by this.
He played with Ken Climo then.
He did in Florida.
Yeah.
Locally, I think, yeah. DGPT might have run a small clip where they said, like, what's your most embarrassing disc golf story? And I think Heimburg was hitting Climo in the head with a disc.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Interesting. We do have we have a segment. We have a new segment that we're gonna start introducing here, and it's Dan's rule of the day. Long time listener, Dan.
Yeah. This is a brand new segment. It's our first segment, I think.
Yeah, first official
We've never
segment.
had a segment. So if all goes well, we're going to hear a theme song and maybe even see a graphic.
It's Dan's Rule of the Week. It's Dan's Rule of the Week.
All right, and today's rule is benefit to the player. And I do believe, Matt, you brought this you got this one up on PDGA right now.
This is probably my biggest rule pet peeve in the whole world, just because of how many people refer to this rule incorrectly all the time, constantly, nonstop. So we're here to set the rules straight here. When you hear players talking about benefit to the player on a tricky call, you would think that means, well, if it's tricky to call, you just give the player the benefit of the doubt and they just get. If it's near the OB, then they play it inbounds. And it's fair to think that because that's how a lot of players play it. And if you're just learning the rules from fellow professionals and amateurs out on the course, that would be an understandable way to look at it. But here's the rules. 801.02 in the enforcement section. The first thing, it's one of the very first rules. Players are assigned to play holes together in a group for the purpose of verifying scores and ensuring play in accordance with the rules. Any determination made by the group as a whole is to be made by the majority of the group. So, rule calls are made by the group that you're playing with, and a determination has to be made by a majority of the group. Or a plurality, but they don't mention that. Players are expected to call a violation when one has clearly occurred. A player in the group may call or confirm a rules violation on any player in the group by notifying all players in the group. So you can call a rule on, I can call a rule on Jesse. Jesse can call a rule on me. Jesse can call a rule on Jesse. Andre can call a rule on all three of us. So that's what happens. That's how rules get called. And then Section 801.03 appeals. Here's the thing. When a group cannot reach a majority decision regarding a ruling, the ruling is based on the interpretation that is most beneficial to the thrower. So, when would this happen? Well, you have a group of 4, and 2 people say there was a foot fault, for example, and 2 people say there was not a foot fault.
Benefit
Can't reach a majority decision. Benefit to the player. If one person says, well, I guess it's if you didn't have it seconded, that would be tough if there's only one person saying it either way. Generally speaking, in most groups, it's going to be 2 say that there was an infraction and 2 people say there was not an infraction. What happens a lot of time is one player says there's an infraction, a second person seconds it, and then maybe a third person wasn't watching, and then the person who got called says they weren't guilty of the infraction, and then it's 2-1. You get a majority there, right? But in a group call where it is 2-2, there is not a majority agreement in this group, then the ruling is based on the interpretation that's most beneficial to the thrower. So there's this one rule about how to break a tie in case of a split decision in group cards that has led to so many misunderstandings of, like, someone will just walk up to a disc near an OB line and say, whatever, benefit.
Yeah.
And that's not the rule. And we need to teach players this and make sure they know this, because it's important stuff. Groups call the rules.
I think the biggest issue is, like, there's not, all 4 people aren't making a decision, right? And like you said, you walk up, it's close. It's just like, benefit to the player because it's close. But essentially what we're trying to say is you have to establish what your vote is. And then you can use balloons, apparently.
Yeah. So you got to make a call. And if you didn't make a call, I think, and they don't really even explain this, like if you made the mistake of not watching, so you don't have a say either way, my understanding is that you just don't vote in the thing, and then there's 3 people voting
taking
on the call,
your
for
vote
example.
out because you don't have you can't make a ruling either way. So
yeah, but if you're not watching your competitors when you're throwing, then you're not playing by the rules either. Like if you're constantly like, hey, we called a foot fault, what's your vote on this? And you say I wasn't watching, then you're not playing by the rules either. At that
Yes
point.
and no, because like it could be the thing where it's like, I was too close to see. I wasn't looking at his feet, and so that's where it's like, that's where I'm kind of okay with people being like, well, I didn't really see it, and so I'm not gonna make a vote, right?
100%. Yeah, it happens.
You'd rather get the truth, even if there's no information, than bad information, and have it impact somebody's game. But I think, kind of like Matt, what you're slowly alluding to is that it's more of like a policing issue that we see with so many other infractions in the professional game, that you can't make that call without paying attention to what's happening. And it's become a cop-out for people that don't want to do their duty as an official, essentially. That you can say, I wasn't watching, benefit to the player, these sort of like get me out of trouble terms, when maybe we can do this next week. Failure to uphold the rules is also a penalty in this here rule book.
Yeah.
And we need to see some change in the practice and implementation of the rules, not so much as how they're written, as in carrying out our job as they're outlined in the rule book.
If you for foot faults, I get it. Stuff that happens in real time, yeah, you're gonna miss some of that. But if there's a Mando in play and you're not watching the flight of the disc, then that's a more serious issue. And that happened at Worlds, the same in Utah, the same year as the Holy Shot, that Paige Pierce missed a triple Mando, and people weren't really paying attention because nobody saw that it missed the triple Mando. And what was it at Throw Pink last year? Holland Hanley's drive on 18 never came in bounds, and they were all clearly not watching, or that was so close they were like, whatever, benefit to the player because they didn't feel comfortable making the call. But at the very least, you have to do your best to make a call, and it just needs to be like normalized, especially like on OB. You're looking at a disc in a line, just make a call one way or the other. Get used to it.
Yeah, it's a culture change that needs to happen around it. And I've heard this from a lot of casual players as well, that they don't want to make these calls because they don't want to be ostracized by the small player base in their area, especially in Canada. If you're a female or in like a age-protected division, there might be only like 3 or 4 people you play against in an entire season traveling. And if you're that person that's always calling these rules, you're definitely getting the look over the shoulder and everything else. And it's totally rooted in the culture of how we enforce the game. If it was normal to make these calls, then we wouldn't have this. It would be like any other sport. Getting a little revved up about this.
In the second round of Gold Eagle coverage, which you should absolutely watch because it was a banger of a round, there was a call. Jesse, feel free to earmuffs if you don't want the spoiler on this one. So we had a falling putt. We had a player inside the circle that putted and then didn't display balance after they putted, stepped forward, and one of the players called it and did a really good job of calling it too, and was, I don't think you need to do this, but went out of his way to say, I'm sorry, like I don't want to be a dick, but you stepped forward in your putt, and so that's a foot fault. And then second player says, yeah, you stepped forward, and then the player said, oh, okay. And then they clarified, so it's a 1-stroke penalty, yep. And then they just went on with the hole, and it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, yeah, it'd be nice if you didn't even have to like pre-apologize when you were making a call.
Yeah.
Player went out of his way to do that anyway, and it was a really nice thing to do. Just say, hey, listen, I'm really sorry. This is the rule, and you broke it. It was a really nice way to do it. So more of that. That's why we wanted to make sure to get that on camera. Like, we covered the whole thing. We didn't just say there was a foot fault called. Like, we tried to get as much of the audio in it as we could, and just because we really wanted those players that are doing the right thing on the course to get the shout out that they deserve.
And if you ever have a rule called on you, don't be a dick about that either. Like, use it as a learning experience, right? I mean, think back and you can truly think that you didn't make didn't do whatever the call was, but use it as a learning experience. The call was made, it's official, it's a rule, and kind of move on and try to get better either at that specific thing, or try to figure out what happened. So
Yeah, and if you earnestly and honestly didn't think you did it, you can vote.
Nope.
In your group that you didn't do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get niche rules called on that they don't necessarily fully understand. There's no problem if you have something called on you asking for someone to show you that rule in the rule book. And then you'll get it the cut and dry way and get your own interpretation of exactly the way it's supposed to be.
And I think that's something that the PDGA has done really well is in their PDGA app. The rules are there. And there's a search function. So if you get a rule called on you, open up your scorecard app. You're keeping score already. Open up the rules, search whatever rule it is, and there you go. It's literally right there. And it's a good way to find out what to do next. What are the next steps as well. So awesome.
Yeah, because sometimes like I've done the rules exam and there's still things where I'm like, oh man, I really don't remember what the penalty on this one is or what the exact wording is on this one. So yeah, having the rule book in the score app is so good.
Yeah, awesome. This is great. I know we have a lot of newer players, and this is a segment that I think a lot of wily vets can use as well. There's not a lot of rule sticklers out there, so learning rules is an important part of the game. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I had for the podcast. I'd like to acknowledge the fact that none of us have mentioned that Caitlin's been circling on a chair behind Jesse this whole time, and I think
she must be very busy.
Yeah, I know.
That's somebody's child. What are you talking about?
That's so funny. The first
That's
time,
like an 8-year-old.
I know the first time you ever had that on, that was my thought though. That very initial thought, I was like, "What is Caitlin doing?"
Yeah, I actually have like a really nice put together background in my office that would have looked great on the podcast, and I forgot I had this virtual background, whatever. It's kind of timeless.
It's worked. Yeah, awesome. I guess that's just your cue to, if you're listening on Spotify, hit up the YouTube, because there's always little bits that you miss by not watching. So awesome.
And if you have any suggestions for rule of the week, for the Dan's rule of the week, we will take any and all the suggestions. Anything that's come up in a tournament, anything that surprised you when you looked it up and it was different than what you learned at league night, which is a very, very, very common thing to learn a rule, like your first year at league and then go for 5 years without knowing that that's not actually the rule.
Mm-hmm.
That's super common. So if you got any of those, let us know. And if there's any questions that you have about the rules, let us know.
And if you've had something that happened with benefit to the player, let us know in the comments. Tell us your stories.
Yeah,
we'd love to hear.
And we'll let the PDGA know, and they'll invalidate that round.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Thanks again to our sponsor, DiscGolfPark, and of course to our patrons. Head over to patreon.com/parkbro for as little as $1.50 a month. You could support this show and our coverage that comes out as well. So thank you so much to those who are supporting us. We goes a long way.
Hell yeah. And from all of us here at Parked Pro, it's illegal to beat children unless you're Andre Lauder in MA2.
Bye.